Omid Farhang, welcome to the frickin' show.
What up? I feel like I'm among kindred spirits right now. It feels great to be with you boys.
Thank you, sir.
And gal.
And gal. You're like a podcast expert yourself. You have like one of the best shows of any advertising marketing podcast ever. So you want to take over?
I mean, you guys would have been guests I would have loved to have on. And
when did you end it?
I ended it, I guess, maybe towards the beginning of was that this year or last year? I actually don't remember if it was this year or last year. I think it was maybe the beginning of last year. And it's about 75 episodes. I had done it over a little over almost 6 years. And the reason I feel like kindred spirits with you guys is because I feel like the reason I started it, I can feel a lot of that in what you guys do. It started from a place of genuine curiosity and a place of trying not to be cynical when it's in an industry where it's actually really easy to like generate interest or comedy out of this sort of cynical side of our business. And so it's hard to resist that urge. And I really wanted to create something that was of service to me. And simultaneously, I figured if I'm wondering about some of these people and about some of their paths, I bet others are too. And and so it morphed eventually into like, I would think about it like, man, the best people in this business wake up to 100 coffee invites on LinkedIn that they mostly ghost because you can't have 100 coffees a week with strangers. So I'm getting to sort of have that coffee on their behalf. And I think, again, the way that you've named your show and the way you set your intention for your show, it feels like you guys sort of took what was on my heart in 2017 and you guys are just like taking it to the next level. It's very fun to watch.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I mean, but you were running that podcast, Talking to Ourselves, which is still out there. They can still listen to it. You got some great guests. You got Ryan Reynolds on there too. Did you get Pogusky on there?
I did. When he announced that he was coming back to advertising, which he did, he came back to advertising for like a 6-month period. And I had asked him a few times and he had kind of, politely turned me down. And then right when that news came out, I was like, how about now? And he said he doesn't really like to leave Boulder. So he said, if you come to Boulder, I'm happy to do it. And so I booked a ticket out of my own pocket and flew over there. And not just the price of doing a podcast with someone who helped define 21st century advertising, but a guy who meant a lot to me as the person who gave me my first job too. I was happy to pay that price out of pocket and go and convene with this guy with a level of comfort and a level of perspective that I didn't have when he hired me as an intern. And you're just scared to death. And he's just kind of too good looking to be in the same room with. And so it was nice to have an adult conversation with him.
I love that. I mean, we'll definitely talk about your Crispin days because that's one of my favorite agencies to talk about. And I see here that you started there around 2006 and you shot your way up. But what I was getting at was you were running this podcast and also running an ad agency or really high up in an ad agency for the most part. The founder and CEO of Majority. Is that correct? How long were you podcasting and running a damn ad agency? So that's a lot.
Yeah. In 2017, I was the CCO at an agency that's part of McCann called Momentum. It's an experiential agency. And actually a big reason why I wanted to start the podcast was, as you guys may know, when you work at a large company, there's just so much compromise, and compromise isn't always a bad thing and can often be a great thing. But, before an idea gets out the door, can you get the buy off of the chief strategy officer and the creatives and the CEO and the CMO, and then you take it to a client and they have feedback and their boss has feedback. And so there's just like, everything is such a group effort. And in 2017, it felt like, man, I just need some outlet that belongs to me where I can decide like what the intro music is and what the structure of it is. And I think you guys have found with the people that you talk to, a lot of successful creative people have some outlet where they just, they get to, and it might be gardening, and it might be painting. And for me, it happened to be podcasting and it happened to be, it was something that belonged to me, but it was an experiment happening in public and ended up being, of service to others and having some unintended benefits. But those benefits weren't why I started it. I really started it selfishly feeling like, man, I need something that I'm not getting in terms of like my growth as a leader, and then it started to morph into this thing that I'm sure you guys get it too, where someone will walk up to you at an event and go like, hey, I'm a young creative at this agency and I was having some existential crisis, as young creatives often do, and creatives across the spectrum, and your episode or your show gave me some new perspective or gave me some new inspiration, or just like knocked me out of my funk. And it's like, you guys probably didn't appreciate that people were going to be saying this kind of sometimes kind of heavy shit to you.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly humbling.
Totally. And will you ever get back into it? You think you'll pick it back up?
I mean, do you guys need a seventh person?
Let's get you in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to help you out.
I mean, first, I think we need to secure like a Fortune 50 sponsor.
You got any connections?
If I did, I'd maybe still be doing mine.
We can find some. We can work together.
Yeah.
I love it. Today, majority. Give me the rundown on what's going on there. I've had on Jorge. He was amazing guest. But give me like, what's your take on majority today? What do you guys stand for? What are you guys cooking up? Some of the clients. Give me the rundown.
Yeah, cool. So we started majority in the idea started to materialize in my mind in 2018. I had moved to Atlanta. I was still working at Momentum, and there was an office there, and I had young kids. I was just ready for more space and more nature in Atlanta. Felt like the right place to relocate. And you quickly look around Atlanta and you see how diverse creative talent is fueling the film industry and the television industry, and most notably the music industry. Mm-hmm. And as I started to think about maybe making a career change, I was looking around at the agencies in Atlanta, and I was surprised that for a place that is like such a epicenter of global pop culture, that the pickings were pretty slim when it came to
what was out there at that time.
Well, I won't name any specific agencies. I'll just say you sort of break it up into two types of agencies generally. One is like a holding company came to serve, AT&T or Coke or Home Depot 20 years ago, and it was just kind of an outpost that didn't ever really tap into what makes Atlanta unlike any other city in America. So, it was this kind of outpost for, and that didn't tap into the soul of the city. And then the other was you have a lot of small kind of old school, good old boy agencies in a city that's just not a good old boy city. I mean, and so that's where I started to see this opportunity to start an agency that, it always baffled me that, since the dawn of agencies in the modern era, your agency is either predominantly white and male, and it's called general market advertising. And then if your agency looks any different than that, you're sort of relegated to this niche called multicultural advertising, which for 100 years or 50 years meant like, what's the Cinco de Mayo campaign and what's the Black History Month campaign. And I just always found that really odd, because growing up at Crispin and being a fan of agencies that disrupt culture, it's like every agency that I've admired has talked about in some way creating culture or infiltrating culture or tweaking culture. And yet when you look at the sort of multicultural paradigm, we don't seem to be studying culture in so much as Beyonce doesn't make a different album for Black people and white people, right? Alejandro Iñárritu doesn't make a different film for Mexican people and American people. Like, culture really doesn't move that way. And so it felt odd to me that that this anachronism that is multicultural marketing still existed in this kind of outdated form. And so we wanted to think about what is a multicultural advertising agency, and moreover, like, what would it look like to create an agency that had a multicultural talent model, but delivered quote unquote, award-winning general market capabilities.
Love. What was that model? What's that talent model?
The talent model is, it starts with leadership, and leadership is more diverse than most. So we're called majority because the average agency in America is about 75% white and male. And then as you work your way into the C-suite, that number plummets into the low single digits. And so the thought was, what if you just flipped that ratio? What if, starting with leadership, your agency was 75% or more Black and brown and underrepresented groups, and not for the reason that agencies too often in 2021 wanted to hire more Black and brown talent, which was a risk mitigation strategy so their clients wouldn't be mad at them because their clients didn't have a lot of diversity, so now it's the agency's fault. Because when you hire someone based on a risk strategy, whether they're your new CCO or your new junior art director, they can feel it, and it does not create a hospitable environment to do what creatives do best, which is to sort of compartmentalize pressure and shoot from the hip and make each other laugh, and create a sense of play. And I think so too often in 2021 and 2022, you had a lot of Black and brown employees who, hey, at 11 o'clock, come up with fart jokes for Fanta. And then at 12 o'clock, can you run a a panel about race and advertising and racism. It's just a very heavy topic, so there was a lot of, basically it felt like the large agencies were putting the responsibility on Black and brown employees to now have a part-time job of, you tell us why we're racist, and can you create a handbook? And so for us, it was like, instead of being the type of social justice warrior that is sort of performing often for an audience that agrees with your point of view to begin with, let's just be the example of what this could look like when it works. And the only way for that to happen is that you have to hire people, not because you're trying to create the Boys and Girls Club of advertising on some, charitable, equitable world shit, although that's a great byproduct, but you actually have to do it because you believe that diversity is a competitive advantage for more work that lands in culture. And the evidence of that is, look at music and look at film and look at television and look at every other level of pop culture. And if they can do it, so can we. And because we actually believe that thesis, when you see pictures of our agency, when you see our people, our new hires, like, even though there's a major race component to the way that we're structured, I want people to see the way we move, the work we make, the way we show up, and say, it looks like those guys are having all the fun.
Yeah. And so that is the theory, and you acted on that. You guys executed that mission. How's it been? Can you give us a rundown on like who you work with?
Yeah.
What cool projects you guys have done? Success stuff?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Success shit.
Well, 2021, the biggest benefit was having Shaq as a partner. Having Shaq as a partner of the agency brought, just put a spotlight on us. And again, a technique developed at Crispin and it now is widely used at agencies around the country and the world is write your idea as the headline that you expect to show up in the world. And I was aware that I wanted to start an agency. I wanted it to be in Atlanta. I wanted to flip the talent model. I wanted to flip the notion of multicultural marketing.
But you needed one more thing? Is that what it was?
Well, I just knew that the headline, like, guy you've never heard of, dislikes boss, would not be a great headline that would get covered when we launched. And a little bit of press when you launch is very helpful.
Yeah.
So this was 2020. The benefit of 2020 was, whereas previously asking someone for a virtual meeting to pitch something would have been like a slap in the face up until 2020, all of a sudden people were home and like sort of, if you had someone to vouch for you, people were down to hear pitches. So I pitched the concept of majority to holding companies, to independent companies, to some of my favorite agencies. It actually even started like, hey, what if we started, fill in your legendary agency, the Atlanta office. And like, this was I started in a more cowardly way. It wasn't like I should start an agency. I actually really liked working at holding companies. Like, it's hard to leave. They take good care of you. The salaries are good. The snack room is stocked and all that. Like,
oh yeah.
So it started more like, who might be able to fund me building the thing that I want in Atlanta and mitigating my risk, and it's still fun on PR day. And I went down this path and sort of bluffed my way into like, I guess we're doing this. And if it just turns into like me freelancing and then I come back with my tail between my legs to a holding company, that's fine too. Shaq heard the pitch. He's based in Atlanta, and he's obviously interested in advertising. And I had a connection with him through my brother, who's a director and has directed a lot of Shaq's spots. My brother really likes working with my brother, Amir. And
wonderful.
And so,
is he older or younger?
My brother Amir's 6 years older.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And
is that how you got into the industry? We'll foreshadow at that.
He is. Yeah, he is. I was going to be a lawyer, a tale as old as every copywriter in advertising.
Copywriter.
And then my brother, who was kind of, a brilliant creative person, but wasn't great at getting good grades. School sort of bored him and was not his jam. Found advertising and then helped me find it too. But anyway, sorry, if I get back on the freeway and wrap that up, it's the Shaq thing brought attention, which brought intrigue and meetings, which created the opportunity to do some one-off projects. And I was sort of acutely aware. I was like, what we have to be able to do here is we have to convert projects into AORs and AORs into longstanding relationships. And we have to become, with each passing article and sort of landmark moment, we have to be less famous for Shaq and more famous for the work, until where we are today is when we launch a piece of work that we're lucky enough for the press to write about, Shaq doesn't even show up in the articles.
Yeah.
And like, that just, it has to be that way because you see so many celebrity agencies, and like PR day is so fun.
Yeah.
And like everyone gives a shit. And then like that's kind of the last you ever hear of them. So it occurred to me like we can only trade off this Shaq thing for so long, and he's letting us trade off his reputation. That's actually the point of this partnership. He's not like comping decks for us,
right?
So like
I was going to ask what is the involvement by him nowadays? Because I haven't seen it a lot in recent press. Mentioned.
Yeah, we really we're not Shaq's agency for the brands that he works with. That's like almost a separate business and a separate entity. We've never worked with any of the brands for which Shaq is a spokesperson, and we sort of like it that way.
Yeah,
it means that we stand on our own 2 feet.
Yeah.
So our first AOR client was the NBA G League, and now we're entering year 5 with the G League.
Nice.
That's the developmental league for the NBA. And as a child of the NBA, that like means a lot to me.
Jack, is Mac McClung in the G League?
Yeah,
they pull him up for the dunk contest.
Mac McClung has showed up in many a majority campaign for the G League. Yeah,
he's good.
And then probably the real turning point moment, and you need some luck, is a former employee of mine at Momentum. She went on to become the head of creative at Sprite North America. And she hit us up after our first year and said, hey, like we've got this jump ball around this script. Our current agency is not delivering and you've got a week. Are you interested? And so we got that, and that one script turned into another project and has now turned into, we're 4 years in with Sprite, which is a brand that for me, again, not just a child of the NBA, but a child of hip hop, a child of comedy. Sprite ads were like one of the handful of things that I would keep a VHS in. And like, I'd record, Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons and In Living Color, and I'd record Nike ads and I'd record Sprite ads, because before there was an internet, the Sprite ads were like one of the few places you could see your favorite rappers, even for 20 or 30 seconds. And so Sprite had a way bigger influence on me even than I appreciated as a kid. And so for that to be kind of like our centerpiece client from which we've been able to kind of develop the case studies that have attracted other clientele. And also it's the first thing I sold at Crispin as an intern that got me the job, so I didn't have to go back to Miami Ad School, was a Sprite spot. So Sprite has kind of found its way sort of serpentining in and out of my career.
Love that. And so you're still working with them. What are you guys doing with them?
So we're in year 4 of Sprite. We've reprised the legendary platform Obey Your Thirst. We do quite a bit of work with the NBA star Anthony Edwards. We just, the past Olympics, we launched Sprite's first ever spot with a female athlete, which was Sha'Carri Richardson, right around Olympics at time. And then right now, it's airing right now, Sprite's first ever partnership with an NFL player. We've got a campaign going with Jalen Hurts right now. And I always loved Obey Your Thirst for the same reason that a lot of people, I mean, I think probably some of your favorite advertising people, deep down, what you love about their work is you can feel that they don't particularly like advertising, and their work is a response to their dislike for the 99% of advertising that is sort of litter that people are trying to avoid. And Obey Your Thirst was one of the first kind of satirical campaigns that took aim squarely at advertising and mocked the tropes and the techniques of advertising to sort of draw a line in the sand and tell youth culture, like, we're on your line of the sand, not on the side of manipulative marketers. So that was, they launched that in the 90s, and I think kind of that point of view from a brand is as sort of refreshing today as it was when they launched it in the 90s.
I love it. So you guys are based in Atlanta. Do you have other offices as well?
When I worked at CAA, they had like one guy in like London. So they'd say like in the CAA London office. Yeah. So like by that rationale, we have a Mexico office. That's one guy. We have a DC office. That's one woman.
Nice.
We have a New York office. I mean, we're pretty global if you think about it.
You're all over. You're all over.
Yeah. We actually, for us, it's we were born of COVID, so we were very like remote first. Yeah. We've got a great office space that we sort of do hybrid work, but for us, it's important where possible to hire within Atlanta or to hire people who want to come and be in Atlanta. And the reason for that is, you have to set audacious goals when you start an agency. And for me, the audacious goal was, I want majority to, going back to sort of what I felt was missing in the Atlanta market for creative people, I want majority to be to Atlanta what Portland was to Wyden, what Miami and Boulder were to Crispin, what San Francisco,
Goodby
is to Goodby. Yeah. Exactly. And so like, and like, even though Goodby is a global agency to an extent, like, you can just feel a sort of San Francisco spirit in their work. The famous Wyden work out of Portland, it's just like, there's just a lot of fucking weird people here.
Yep.
And they just see things differently, and the way they see things differently manifests in advertising you've never seen before. And so I take a lot of inspiration from those places.
We had Brian Bonilla on, and he said Atlanta is the best place he's ever visited in the world.
Has he been to a lot of places?
I assume so. He's been to Cannes, at least. I saw him there. But like,
let me say this, and
what do you got
this will
me?
upset somebody. I think Cannes just absolutely sucks. The worst.
As in the location or the festival?
It's like what if I could offer you a trip to South Beach, but it's a 10-hour flight? It's like, well, I don't really want to go to South Beach, and then but it's like triple the distance to get to South Beach, which I didn't want to go to in the first place. And I know it sounds quite pompous, and it's like this great honor to be in this place, but it's just like, it is just not the style of town that I would ever want to visit. And, so.
You strike me, and I think I have some sources that can confirm this, like a little bit more of an outsider, like kind of like to do things on your own. Is this true? Like somebody was saying during the A-list gala, like you went across the street to watch a basketball game. It's like you kind of march to the beat of your own drum. Is this true or false? You start your own damn agency, so it could be.
So there's just something about me that like a dinner table of 5 people is like the happiest place for me. But at a dinner table of like 8 people, I'm just like wondering how I can get out of that the whole time. And so A-list is like, it's just very overwhelming. And I think I probably learned through the journey of starting this agency and having to be sort of more in the public eye that I'm a sort of an introvert with extrovert qualities. Like when it's time to sort of like cosplay.
Outrovert.
Outrovert?
I think that's a new thing that they just came up with.
Yeah. I can sort of cosplay as an extrovert, but I love being alone. I love being home with my family.
Yeah.
I'm really happy COVID happened from the standpoint of just revealing how crazy it is, the way that we would like travel so much for like a 30-minute meeting. Like we should fly across the country to show this like 45-minute presentation. Just like the amount of time wasted. And man, I can just, not to be like sad, but I mean, I can just look back at my life across several agencies and you see people who just completely miss their kids growing up. Like it happens really quick. You have a kid and you're 35 and then like 20 years later, you're 55 and that kid is gone.
For sure.
And that kid is a bean they're born a bean.
Mm-hmm.
And then 20 years later, like you might be 5 pounds fatter and have like a little bit of gray hair and they've gone from a bean to this full grown thing. And then once they're gone, they don't come back. And I just like, there were so many people who took such pride in like missing every bath time. Oh man, I was never fucking home for bath time. I was like, wow, it's not their fault. That's like what was
is bath time like fun? Like is that something you don't want to?
It's not fun while you're doing it. Like it's not fun wiping another human's butthole out. But it's very finite. And once it's gone, you never get to go back.
Yeah.
So it feels like when you have babies, I have 3 young kids. They're now 10, 9, and 6. When you have young kids, it feels like they're going to be young forever. You get like seduced into believing they're going to be young forever. And then the truth is like you snap your fingers.
And they're gone.
So I really try to be mindful of that and try to savor being around my kids.
You can force them to go into advertising.
Yeah. I'm not sure what problem that would solve, but I mean, I would be fine.
You would hire them and then they're with you all the time.
Like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Let me tell you something. Yeah. So did you see Landman? Jerry Jones does this whole speech in Landman about like he only bought the Cowboys so that he could do this with his kids. It's an incredibly touching scene. He recreates it in the new Cowboys documentary on Netflix, which I highly recommend. But as he's talking about trying, like the only reason he bought the Cowboys was basically so that he could grow old with his kids. I was like, fucking great idea. I should buy the Cowboys. Yeah.
That's money. But yeah, no, the travel stuff is crazy. What would you have said to Omid just starting out the business, knowing what you know now, building a brand, building an agency? What advice would you give yourself then?
I think the biggest thing is just don't wait until you're ready. And I know that's like probably the worst, like the elders listening to this will be like, stop telling young people to not wait their turn in line, because like it does get obnoxious that the cliche of the 22-year-old Gen Z who thinks like, what if I just skipped ahead and just like became the CEO?
Mm-hmm.
But I think within the context of like the hierarchy of most advertising agencies, I think people wait to get promoted, or they wait to gather some level of confidence or expertise. And the truth is, like, that thing that you want to do, one of the hidden qualities about why you want to do it is that you're not ready for it. And the only way to actually fully be ready for it is to start doing it. And then a thing that I did early in my career that helped me get promoted faster, I didn't know I was doing it, but now as I reflect on it, I would play it back to people as advice, is you're going to be at agencies and you're going to be a senior copywriter, and your CD is going to leave or get fired or take another job or start an agency. Throughout your time at an agency, there's going to be these little voids that are created. And so just start doing that job. Like the way I became the youngest creative director at Crispin Porter wasn't because anyone thought I was like a prodigy. I was the youngest creative director because 5 people at the agency all decided to leave and start this new agency called Goodness Manufacturing. And like someone needed to do this Volkswagen call in 2 hours. And in the absence of someone qualified, they were like, maybe Omid should just do it. You know, like
your boss is that?
Well, no. It's like there's a desperation, but like your boss's boss can't be on every call. That's why he has somebody, a layer of capos. You know,
yeah. We were talking mafia stuff before.
So then it's like, all right, like that call went well. Maybe like let him do the second. Like you'd be surprised how the people who hold your fate in their hands, they don't have your ascent charted in the way that you do. They're honestly just trying to survive the week.
Right.
And if you can like represent 4 meetings this month that they don't have to show up to so that they can focus on other things, that's like incredibly valuable. And then what happens if you can find a pocket to start doing that is that you're just like, okay, well, so I do these calls. So I guess like I'm behaving like an ACD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking for a promotion. I'm just doing the job of an ACD until 6 months go by. And then eventually like they should just give you a raise and call you what you've been doing.
You have to.
And that's most promotions is you start doing the job and then until it's undeniable and they start calling you what you are. Yeah. I get bummed out when people are like, well, I'm not taking on that responsibility until I'm given, until like the value exchange adds up to me. Like, it's like, it's kind of like what you guys are doing here and how I describe the podcast. Like whatever you think you're needing, if you start to find a way to give it, you will actually get it. So like if you guys wanted to create a space if you guys needed inspiration, the way that you guys are acquiring inspiration is by creating a platform that gives inspiration to people.
Yes.
And then it comes back to you. So I think the same is true in an agency. It's like, if the thing you're needing is validation, start giving it to others. If the thing that, so like, I don't recall any promotion I ever got up until my first CCO job that felt like there was like an ice cream cake. And it was it was like, hey, congratulations. It was just more like, all right, like, I guess felt more like an inevitability based on just like, how can I show up and be of service today where there's this void and where there's this chaos? Because chaos really reigns supreme at great agencies. Actually, like where it's lacking is usually where the work isn't particularly good, but it can really overwhelm people. And I remember at Crispin, we were agency of the year like 4 out of 5 years. And I just remember looking around being like, if we're agency of the year, God help this industry. I feel like we're hanging on by a thread and this place is like always on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get out there and you realize like hanging on by a thread and always on fire is like, that's homeostasis for great creative agencies.
I definitely want to talk about that because whenever anybody that's been on this show talks about Crispin, I get excited. So I want to hear about how you broke into the industry. You mentioned you had an older brother. That was kind of adjacent film, right? But at what point did you realize you wanted to be in the ad industry and how do you break in? So you were studying law. I also recall you saying, enlighten me though.
Yep. Child of immigrants, wanted to make my parents proud. So I was going to either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a loser. And so I chose lawyer because I wasn't good at math and science. And I put my applications for law school in, and as I was waiting for them, my brother was picking up steam. He was at BBH. He had just done like this really awesome campaign, and it was so funny, and I was so envious. And he was like, man, you'd be really good at this if you were okay disappointing mom and dad, like, And then a spot came out called Honda Gur, which you should put in your show notes. But that was like a seminal moment for me. It's this animated film from Wyden, London, about the diesel engine for Honda. It was like the multi-Grand Prix winner in 2004 or something. And I just watched it like 25 times, and like I was just watching it daily. And this thing is like, it's so creative. At the heart of it is this strategic idea that can hate be a good thing? It's for the diesel engine, and they interviewed Honda engineers, and they're like, we created this clean diesel engine because we hate diesel engines. And so they started from the Wyden people are like, so you started from a place of hate. Can hate be a good thing? So to me, it was the first real like fascinating bridge between a strategy and a creative output that I really was like, oh, like the use of creativity to solve problems. So that film was sort of, all right, I'm going to go to advertising. I went to Miami Ad School. It's an 8-quarter program. In my 4th quarter, I got the internship at Crispin Porter. It helped. My brother he spent a year and a half there, and he was there when they were selecting interns. It was a hard program to get into, and so he helped me get in, get my foot in the door.
Nice.
And then I sold because my brother was there, I wasn't really working with interns. And I knew some of the people there because they were mutual friends of my brother. So I just started sitting in people's office and working on real briefs. And I was lucky enough to write a Sprite script that got made, which is not a thing that really happens with interns. And then here's the story. So the internship's finishing. We're going into Christmas break. I'm going to go back to Tucson, where I'm from, for Christmas break. And then I'm supposed to go back to Miami and finish my 2nd year of Miami Ad School. And I just feel so at home. It's Crispin Boulder. They had just moved there. Okay. They had been there for 3 months. So nice. I got there right when Alex made everyone do this exodus to Boulder. And I just felt so at home there. I was like, this is where I belong. And so I was trying to get an interview with him, but he didn't have time for me. So it was the week before my internship was up, and it was time to go home. So I created like a packet of all the things that I had made as an intern, and I was like, I'm going to go and sit in this fucking guy's office at 7 a.m, and he's eventually going to show up. He's just going to have to deal with me.
Yeah.
I went to Starbucks on the way. I found out Alex liked to drink mochas. So I bought a mocha, but I don't know what time he's going to show up. So I bought an aluminum cup from Starbucks, and I poured the mocha into an aluminum cup so it'd stay hot. And I got to the office at about 7:15, and he was already there. No one was there. This office was in the middle of the woods, but he was already there. He wanted to go to there was a gym there. He like got himself a nice early morning workout. So it's me and him there. And I sit there, and we have this kind of awkward interview. And I say, this is where I belong. And I feel like I would stock the fridges here if you just like let me have a job here. He says, let me think about it. And now it's time to go home, and I'm not getting an answer, and I'm not sending my money for the next quarter of Miami Ad School. And my plan is, all right, well, I haven't gotten a yes, but I also haven't gotten a no. So I'm going to go back to Tucson, and then I'm going to book a flight back to Boulder. And I'm just going to keep showing up to this place, even though my internship's up. And like, what's the worst that's going to happen? An armed guard will escort me out. And so that was my big plan. I was just like, I'll just go back to this place where my internship has expired.
And just keep showing up to work.
And I'll just keep showing up to work at a place where I'm not employed.
Yeah.
And as I was getting on the plane to execute this plan after Christmas break, as I was boarding the plane back to Boulder for this very dubious plan that I was very nervous about, I got a call from the HR person at Crispin, and she's like, we would like to offer you $35,000. And I was like, you're such a fucking sucker. I would have done it for free. I was about to go pay an ad school to make ads. And that was the greatest 2-hour flight of my life.
Oh my goodness. Who was the HR person that called you? Do you remember the name?
Pam something?
Pam. Yeah. That is wild. What was it that made it feel like home? They just moved to Boulder, so it wasn't even really home for them at that point. But what was the culture like in that internship? You sold a Sprite spot. So like, it must have treated you well. They must have given you opportunities to create work, but why was it so special?
Well, I mean, the location was a big part of it. I think that it did have this cult-like quality that it's like, while most advertising is happening in big cities that have these kind of revolving doors of talent, to choose to come to this place is like such a life commitment for the people who've chosen this life.
Yeah. It's like Richmond.
Totally. It's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to like make my life here, and I'm going to go and like lean into the small town there. And so it felt like a biosphere too of advertising. It's just like, you're in the middle of the woods with all these like young people who, by virtue of being there, it's like, it is an expression of their sacrifice for what they're willing to do just based on the reputation of that place. It's like, if you've come here, it's like showing up to like a monastery. It's like, don't be surprised when you're like sitting in silence and fasting. Like that's what monks do. Mm-hmm. And when you come to Crispin Porter, don't be surprised when you're here late at night and on the weekends, and like good enough sucks and everyone's pushing everything. And And so for me, I was very ambitious. I was very sensitive to the fact that I'd sort of let my immigrant parents down with my choice to not go to law school. And so I was in Boulder and I didn't ski once and I didn't snowboard once and I hiked very little. Like I really wanted to work really hard and all the time. And the idea of making something, honestly, I know it sounds very like quaint, but like the idea of making something that I would see on television during football on Sundays from where I'm from, like that just dazzled me. And I just remember, what I love about advertising and at Crispin, it feels magnified. I think a great agency, this quality feels magnified, that like, say what you will about advertising, but no 2 days are the same. And every day you're just like in this fucking tiger cage, and there's fires to put out and there's crises, and then like the seas part, and now you're going to like maybe make something with like your hero growing up as the celebrity, and it's so funny, and this place has made all of these things that are on your sort of Mount Rushmore of like creative influences and marketing. And so you're trying to live up to that and not be suffocated by that. I mean, the first brief I worked on as an intern was for Miller High Life. And Miller High Life ads from Wyden in the early 2000s, the High Life man, that's the High Life. Like those ads moved me deeply and were a big reason I got into advertising. And all of a sudden you're working on the brief. It's like every idea was just like some knockoff High Life man idea. It's like, I can't come up with anything better than the thing from 6 years ago. It can't be, and, so it just creates this environment for people who are looking for a certain thing, where it's like in my 20s, all I wanted to do was live up to the reputation of this place and make them look like they made a good choice for hiring me. And so when you're working nights, people are like, how do you get promoted quick? When you work nights and you work weekends, that's just time. And so you actually I feel like I had a 10-year career in 5 years there. And a lot of it was opportunity and kismet and luck. And the other part of it is just like, that's just how I wanted to spend my 20s. That's the way I wanted to invest those hours.
I always say I'm in my 20s now. Like when we're working harder, I say to myself, like, what else am I going to do? Like I got nothing else to do. Might as well get back to it, and I enjoy it. So let's get freaking after it.
And also like life happens in chapters. And so like which chapter, it's hard to anticipate in your 20s, like what the next chapters may be. But, some people say I'd rather have a great time in my 20s and travel the world and maybe like work harder later. For me, I don't know that I wasn't working hard early in my career with the intention of maybe working less hard later, but it has created that opportunity for me if I want it, which has been a great unintended benefit of investing those years that way.
But you got it in your DNA. You're a founder now, CEO founder, so you're probably working your ass off still.
I went to the next job after Crispin, and everybody talks about how hard they work, but that place was so intense. This next job I went to, another place where they thought they worked really hard, and I was like, I could have a whole second full-time job at this place and no one would even know.
And who, like,
it helps to work at that would be another piece of advice, whether it's a famous place or a not famous place. In your 20s, if you can go work at a place that teaches you how to work really hard and sets a really high expectation for you, then throughout the rest of your career, your half-ass will be as good as a lot of people's, maximum.
It raises the bar. Who was pushing you hard? Was it Rob Riley?
It was Rob Riley and Andrew Keller, two of my best friends, my two mentors, that my sort of
Whopper Freakout you
Rich
worked
Dad,
on?
Poor Dad.
Is this what I'm reading here? You worked on Whopper Freakout?
Whopper Freakout was like the first big break I got to make something that was like, oh, you've contributed to the endless Mount Rushmore of work that this place has created. Like you've like notched one little link on the belt of like contributing something.
Which I feel like
is
one of the key ones that I think about.
Thanks, man.
It's that history.
It's what's old is new. Remember that in advertising, because really, if you think about what Whopper Freakout was, it was kind of like the Folgers Crystals Challenge in some way. And like you actually see it all the time. You see it at Mischief and Gut and my agency. Like some of the best things that feel so brand new and win Grand Prix, they are variations of things that people just sort of forget about. It's the sort of 2025 version of the 2015 version of the 1995 version.
We saw that ad that was completely ripped off by BBDO. Remember that? It was like a law firm just like took the car accident scene exactly frame by frame, and they thought that nobody would notice or something.
Dude, the Sydney Sweeney thing is a Brooke Shields campaign. I mean, it's almost like it's like if you actually go back and watch the Brooke Shields one, the the writing in it is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and it just kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that is it an homage or did they expect that no one would know, or maybe who gives a shit. It's probably who gives a shit. And like, if it works, it works.
And it worked for you. Yeah. And I wouldn't, that one's hilarious. I feel like you got the brand like tied into that so well. Like you really captured the essence of the brand at that time, that challenger mentality. So
it's a great example. Like the brief was, the Whopper is turning 50. So like all the ideas were like it's the Whopper's birthday.
To make it moldy.
I mean, that's the ultimate, and he was on my podcast, Fernando Machado. And like, that's another guy who,
he is a superstar.
What he said to me, I say to my clients all the time, which is like, yeah, it's really nice to take a brand that's never made anything good and just like sell them something that like fucking breaks the internet. But the truth of what we do for a living with most clients, unless you get really lucky, is just like this incremental journey of a little bit more risky, a little bit more interesting. And he talks about the journey of the early days of Burger King work that was like risky, but not that risky. And then the next thing, well, like it's a little bit riskier than the last thing, but the last thing went pretty well.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you get like that on that incremental journey 5 years later, it's just like the food is covered in mold and he can sell that to his people. And they're like,
right,
all right, let's fucking try it. If he brought moldy Whopper when he first took that job, he probably would have gotten fired in his first 30 days.
For sure. Yeah, the incremental build and build that trust over time. But what were some of the other ideas from the Whopper Freakout? You were saying the 50th anniversary. What else was tossed around?
Well, so, man, Whopper Freakout was a sort of triangulation of an idea that me and my partner Nathan Dills had, and then my two very good friends, Ryan Kutcher and Paul Caiozo had. By the way, shout out to my friend Ryan Kutcher. He's created a beer brand called Dad Strength. And I don't know when this is airing, but this Wednesday, Ryan will be on Shark Tank.
No shit.
Yeah, for the season premiere of Shark Tank. Dad Strength. So
I like that.
So watch.
Is it strong beer?
No, the genius of it. It's like a half calf. It's like, hey, as you become a dad, you like drinking IPAs, but you don't like the hangovers. So it's not an NA and it's not a full strength beer. It's like a light strength beer with a strong taste to it.
Oh,
he's fucking.
You're pretty good though.
Yeah. What was the question? Oh, Whopper Freakout was triangulated from an idea that me and Nathan had called Fried, and the idea was we'd prank people, and then Tracy Morgan would come out and be like, "You got fried," and then Ryan and Paul's idea was called the Whopper Deprivation Project, and it was like very intellectual. And we brought these two ideas to Bogusky, and Bogusky was like, "I like this. Like, let's take elements of yours and elements of theirs," and the king comes out, and like, why don't we call it Whopper Freakout? And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like, actually, by that point, I was like, Deprivation Project sounds so cool. Mm-hmm. And part of when you're young, too, I think, or unproven, for me, I wanted to make things that were expression. I wanted people to know how smart I was. I wanted people to like feel intellectualism in my work. And it led to a lot of work that was like confusing, so that it itched my need to like project intelligence. And so I was like, Whopper Deprivation Project, what a great name to really flex my intelligence. And he was like, Whopper Freak. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, you just ruined this idea. You're just dumbing it down for the masses. And like, turns out that he made it to the mountaintop for a reason. And it's like, what if you named it something that like people could understand right away?
Right away.
Yeah. And so that's an important lesson for all creatives out there, is for all of your ideas, no matter what insecurity you're working through your creative expression, before your idea can be clever, it has to be clear.
Love it. Well, any other advice that you have for our listeners that we didn't go over? Best advice for somebody trying to break into this industry today that we didn't talk about?
I think, having done a podcast myself and probe so many leaders, actually what was like refreshing and enlightening was there's so many different paths to the top, however you define the top for you. The top for you might be like, I've got a comfy job where I've got just the right amount of responsibility, but not too much, and I get home in time for bath time. Like, however people want to prioritize their values in their life is great, and this industry offers all of those flavors. But for the people who have reached the creative pinnacle, there's so many different ways to do it. But I think probably the some of the characteristics that are the through line of all of these people, whether they're hands-on or hands-off or empowering or micromanaging or big agencies or entrepreneurs, is all of them. And so I would say, if you can identify these qualities and if you can tease them out in yourself or you can lean on them on hard days, the first one is persistence. I think all of the people at the top of the industry have this innate ability to almost like annoy their favorite ideas into existence. And you actually can feel when you pitch ideas to some clients, the wrong clients, that like clients in so many words will tell you, I don't want to do this idea because it's hard. They won't use those words, but clients will kill good ideas because they can just be like, man, if I said yes to that, it's going to be a drag and it's going to jam up my whole spring. And like, you're right, it will. Like, you're going to have to change your vacation plans over Christmas if you want to make this thing.
Yeah.
And some people want to do that and some people don't. And I don't judge either way, because you just get this one life and however you want to use it. And if you don't want to make advertising over Christmas, God bless you, man. Like, I totally respect that. Or what chapter of your life you want to be doing that. But you have to be incredibly persistent with great ideas, because Lee Clow called it the idiot forest. If you work at a big agency, just to get ideas out the door, before you even show it to clients, like, you have to navigate so much internally. Mm-hmm. He called it the idiot forest. My more polite way of saying it is too many smart people syndrome. I remember working at a holding company where it's like, all right, we're looking at ideas for this telco company. Like, okay, on the call, I'm on here. The New York ECDs are on here. New York CCO, North American CCO, global CCO, global chairman, global CSO, North Americans. So like, there's like 30 smart people on this call. The thing about smart people is like, they want to say one smart thing. So whatever idea you're talking about, once everyone has said one smart thing,
it's gone.
You've ground it into dust.
Yeah.
What I love about having a startup agency is like, we're just okay showing flawed things. And what it's allowed us to do is have way more perseverance and stamina. Inevitably, when your clients start like dragging you through their politics and red tape, which is going to happen, and it's part of the job. So that's the persistence part. Related is perseverance. Like, just so much of our careers are ideas that'll never see the light of day that you believe deeply in. Mm-hmm. And it's why I love hiring people who played sports growing up. Is because I think now, having my own kids, what I realized, like, the most important thing about playing sports growing up is it teaches you how to lose. People who didn't learn how to lose growing up, they just don't have any perseverance when things don't go your way. But when you grow up playing sports, it's like, you have to lose and you have to figure out how to process failure and process disappointment, and then like come back the next day and try again, and the next day and the next day and the next day. And like, how do you channel the disappointment into something good? How do you let go of disappointment and just start anew each day? And I think that metaphor is very transferable to what we do. So I think that persistence and perseverance, and if you have those two things, then you're going to get the third thing that you can't anticipate or calculate, but you need it to succeed, which is luck. Mm-hmm. But if you have talent and persistence and perseverance, the luck part, it will ebb and flow, but like it will find you when you need it most.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing, Omid. How can people reach out to you if they want to say hello, learn more about you? What's the best route?
I mean, going back to the introvert thing, please don't reach out to me.
Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
No, I think I'm easy to find just like anybody else. I'm not the most active in social media, and my agency suffers as a result. But here we are. You lean into your strengths and weaknesses, but it's why I love doing a podcast, even though it was for big groups of people. It's like, everybody has their talking points, mm-hmm. but you can only stick with them for an hour or so, for a few minutes or so, and then eventually you have to just start answering questions. And so I did that for others, and it was a very personal medium that I took a lot from. And to see the way that you guys have taken the ball and run with it, like, it puts a big smile on my face every time I see you guys post content, because it feels like the spirit of what I tried to create really flows through the things that you guys make, and you guys have just taken it to a level that is like, it's what the industry's needing right now. So I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to us. And keep on rocking. Majority, we're going to keep on watching and get your work on the board, the whiteboard soon here.
Let's go.
And we'll celebrate you guys just like we do with the whole industry.
Awesome, dudes. Thank you.